Welcome to Ink 2 Video. We make books into visual stories.
Meet Vardha. He has ideas to pitch at work, products to sell online, and a recurring argument with his roommates about the state of the kitchen. But despite his efforts, he might as well be invisible. His strategy is grounded in a common assumption that people are rational actors. He believes that if he presents enough data and speaks with enough confidence, others will have no choice but to agree. But the results tell a different story. His emails go unread, his sales pitches are met with a maybe later that never arrives. He feels forced to beg or bribe just to get a basic response. These are push tactics, high-friction approaches that rely on external pressure. Whether he is demanding a deadline or pleading for a favor, Vardha is attempting to force his agenda through sheer willpower. This approach triggers a natural psychological defense. When we feel cornered by a logical demand or pressured to comply, our brains instinctively prioritize our own autonomy, leading to immediate resistance. Relying strictly on logic ignores how our hardware actually works. The human brain rarely processes a request through a purely rational lens before deciding how to act. Vardha's perspective shifts after discovering the work of Robert Cialdini. He realizes that persuasion isn't an argument, it's a series of biological triggers. This is the click-whir response. Because the world is too complex to analyze every single variable, our brains use fixed action shortcuts. When a specific stimulus clicks, an automatic response whirs into motion, sidestepping the energy-intensive process of manual deliberation. Our tribal history created social proof. If we see a crowd moving in one direction, our brain assumes the path is safe. We mirror the behavior of others to bypass the risk of being wrong. We are also programmed with an authority bias. From a young age, we are taught to defer to symbols of expertise and power. Titles or uniforms trigger a shortcut that tells the brain to follow instructions without requiring a logical breakdown. Then there is scarcity. The fear of losing access to a resource overrides our ability to judge its actual utility. We want things more intensely simply because they might soon be unavailable. These evolutionary survival instincts remain the hidden architects of our modern, everyday decisions. Vardha begins applying this science to a technical expert at his office who has ignored his last 3 requests for help. He starts with reciprocity. Before asking for anything, he sends the colleague a relevant article that solves a small problem they've been having. This creates a psychological obligation to return the favor. Next, he mentions a shared interest in a specific hobby to activate the liking principle. We are naturally more inclined to say yes to people we perceive as similar to ourselves. Finally, he frames his request by saying, "I know you're the authority on this." By explicitly labeling their expertise, he triggers the colleague's internal drive to act in a way that matches their status. The colleague agrees immediately. Because Vardha used pull triggers instead of push tactics, the colleague feels a sense of satisfaction from helping, rather than the annoyance of being interrupted. To manage his uncooperative roommates and his online customers, Vardha uses the consistency rule. He asks for a tiny 5-minute commitment, a quick kitchen sweep, or a newsletter sign-up. Once they agree to the small task, their brains feel a powerful pressure to act in alignment with that initial yes when he later asks for a larger commitment. In his sales, he stops offering indefinite availability. By framing his products as part of a limited time offer, he uses scarcity to turn a passive maybe into an urgent purchase. By replacing forceful demands with these cognitive shortcuts, Vardha reduces the social friction in his life. He is no longer fighting against human biology. He is working with it. The results are measurable. Vardha's projects move through the office faster, his sales figures increase, and even the kitchen in his apartment stays clean. Ethical influence relies on the understanding that persuasion is a biological language. By using these 6 principles, we align our requests with the way the human brain is already built to respond. As Cialdini observed, we often rewrite our own logic after the fact to remain consistent with the decisions these shortcuts have already made for us. Think of the last time you bought something you didn't strictly need. You likely justified it with logic after the purchase was a foregone conclusion in your mind. Look at that moment again. Which of the 6 principles did the seller use to bypass your critical thinking? Once you recognize the signs of persuasion, you start to see the triggers everywhere.
Don't just watch the story. Be part of it. Ink it. Imagine it. Live it with Ink2 Video. Like if it hit you. Subscribe to stay in the story loop. Share it with someone who loves visuals.